It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the EdTech Mondays Nigeria show. Thank you for tuning in once again. I remain your host, Chinyelu Akpa. Last week, we began the conversation on sustainable partnerships for effective EdTech design. And I had with me an award-winning educator who shared the role teachers play in designing effective EdTech models. This week, we have an award-winning educator, trainer, and instructional designer who is joining us on the show. Her expertise lies in creating learning strategies, developing learning content frameworks, and overseeing course development and review processes. She has successfully addressed pressing learning challenges, including developing a gamified online course for student teachers under her supervision and an English learning book with a storytelling approach for school learners. Welcome to the show, Bisayo Adewale. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Great. So last week, we had an amazing educator, Victoria Animashaun, who shared her experience in being an educator and why she felt educators were important in, building this sustainable partnership for effective EdTech design. And I know that your career spans, from being a teacher to now being an instructional designer. So tell us, why do you think it is so important to have instructional designers as part of the design process when putting together EdTech solutions?
Okay, thank you very much for making that the first question, because I like to paint the scenario of a kitchen that has all the ingredients, the aesthetics and everything, and there is no chef, right? And everything is there, every other thing is there, but there is no chef to put it together into something, to produce something meaningful, something memorable. Yeah. So, and something easy to transfer, to the real world. Nobody's going to come into the kitchen and start eating the ingredients. That's how important it is for an instructional designer to be part of the EdTech design process, even before you even get to the design process. So just like a chef is the one putting all those ingredients together in the kitchen to prepare that delicious meal, an instructional designer is the one that puts the content, the developers, the product design, everything, puts everything together to make sure that it is something that can be delivered to the learner, right? Even when there's no other person there, when it is just the learner. That's how important our roles are.
So the instructional designer demystifies, all the basic concepts or all the concepts that might be in the head of the developers or the owner of the product owner, and make sure that it is transferable from being just an idea or being just code that we put together to ensure that learning, is taking place. If you do like this, you get this.
Yes.
If you click on this, it takes you. So
Exactly.
that's what the instructional designer
Yes.
does. Great. Having understood how important instructional designers are, how do we then ensure that instructional designers are involved in the design process of EdTech solutions from start to the end, and not just designing user-friendly solutions or solutions that are aesthetically pleasing, but to have solutions that are hitting on learning outcomes, that are effective in translating the intended knowledge? And I ask this because over time, we've seen an influx of EdTech solutions into the educational system, into the market, right? After following fast on the heels of COVID, people understood how important it was. But are we sure that these solutions are actually achieving the intended learning outcomes and not just another tool to distract, young people or distract students or distract learners? What role do instructional designers play now in ensuring this happens?
Instructional designers can be involved from the beginning by ensuring that they are part of the conversation. Because in EdTech, the customers are usually different from the learners. So sometimes EdTech owners, they find it difficult to find that balance because they need
They are
to.
different. The customers are
Yeah.
different from the learners.
Yes.
Wow.
So, and the customers are the ones paying. But the learners are the ones that will.
Are consuming the
Yes, and they're the ones consuming,
content.
and they're the ones that will determine if your solution makes sense, not the customers, right? So it can be very challenging to just to bring in instructional designers from the onset. So I'm telling everyone listening now that you should bring them in from the very beginning when you're having that conversation with the customers, because when you will not be able to defend why you think what this customer wants is not what you should be doing, the instructional designer is the one that will help you answer those difficult questions. They are the ones that will have that conversation with the customer because they understand the learning experience. They are the ones that will tell the customer, you know what, this is what you want, this is what you want to pay for, but we think you should go this other way. Because if we go this other way, we'll have a larger impact. You as the developer, the product designer, or the EdTech founder might not know the best response to give. So in a bid to satisfy the customer, you say yes to almost everything they say, and then when you come back home to start designing the solution, you bring in an instructional designer when the food is already cooking. So what do you want the instructional designer to do at that point? It becomes very difficult. So the first thing you need to do is, from the moment you start defining the problem, bring the instructional designer to that conversation, and you will see that every other thing will be easy for you. Well, not entirely easy.
Not entirely easy, but at least the learning part of it is more defined.
Yes, from the onset. So some challenges that you begin to face along the line, you see that they would have been unnecessary if you had involved them from the beginning. So it starts by involving them when you are defining the problem. Call an instructional designer. Make sure that your team is cross-functional and an instructional designer is in that team when you start having conversations, when you start pitching to investors.
This is very interesting because one would think you just need product designers, the guys who can code, and a founder with a grand idea and vision to birth a solution. But you're helping us see that it goes beyond having the big ideas, but also seeing that you're able to get people who can break it down for both the customers and the users, now being the learners who consume this product. But you've said something and my mind is just racing, and I'm wondering, how do we even make instructional designers? Because it's not that you go to school and you read a course called instructional design. So what's the pathway? Because if you're talking about sustainable partnership structures, I'm sure that we have listeners who are now saying, I want to be this person who is providing this support to EdTech organizations. So how do you get people who understand this and get them on track? Because I want to believe that this is a problem we have already, right? We don't have a lot or enough instructional designers to support. How many people have you heard as, oh, I'm an instructional designer? You will hear, I am a teacher.
Yeah.
And I also want to believe that a teacher is different from an instructional designer. So how do we groom more instructional designers that can support?
Okay, I just kept giving you that because you are just speaking my mind. Okay, so let's start by defining who a teacher is and who an instructional designer is when it comes to an EdTech solution.
Yes,
the teacher is the content expert. The instructional designer is the learning experience design expert.
Wow.
So the instructional designer can design for any content. The instructional designer does not have to be a subject matter expert in English, math, science, and all of that. But the teacher is a content expert in a particular subject. So when you turn a content expert into an instructional designer, there's a major problem because this person is good at, even if the person is good at designing learning experiences, they are only good at designing learning experience for that content where they have expertise, not general learning experience design. So that is the difference. And that shows you how much we need this partnership. Because from my definition, the instructional designers and the teachers cannot work in isolation. Because, for instance, I recently designed storyboards. We call it storyboards. What you see on the app, there are our lesson plan, like teachers will call it, as we call it storyboards. So I've designed storyboards for basic grade 5 basic science class, but I'm not a basic science teacher. I don't have any experience teaching basic science. I only have experience teaching English. But I was able to design how the learner will interact with every single screen, every single content that was provided by a basic science teacher. So because we don't have instructional designers, you see many EdTech solutions or EdTech companies using teachers.
But teachers are experts in just one area.
So it's even costly, because now you have to get teachers for every single content that you want to, that you are designing a solution for, when you can just have teachers, come in and go out, provide the content, while the instructional designer designs the learning experience. So you have a team of subject matter experts. Then you also have a team of instructional designers. Yeah.
So having understood how important it is to have instructional designers, how can we build a pipeline of instructional designers that are available to support, the product owners, as we call them in the process, to ensure that they are able to transform the content created to experience.
Okay, so the first thing to do is to still work with teachers.
We're going back to teachers again.
Yeah, okay. They are amazing people.
Okay.
Because they say teachers wear many hats. So teachers will find it very easy to transition from teaching to instructional designing. Imagine that you have a teacher who is a content expert that can also design the learning experience. That's the powerhouse.
That's 2 in 1.
That's the powerhouse. And my current organization where I work, Lothego, that's what they are doing. So all their instructional designers are former teachers. Peace of mind. Because you know that apart from their expertise, you know that even when you bring content that is not in their area, they are able to transform it into a memorable, meaningful, and easy to transfer learning experience. So how do we start? Work with teachers, expose them to professional development opportunities that helps them see how their current role as teachers is easily transferable into instructional design. I like telling myself that teachers are the best instructional designers because they have an educational background. There are many instructional designers, in the corporate side and all of that don't have education background. They have more of human resource background, right? But teachers have education background. They understand the science of learning.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine that you get teachers as an EdTech owner, you get teachers and then you start developing them. You bring them in, you start exposing them, you invite teachers that have already transitioned into instructional design to train them, and on the job they keep on getting better. You have peace of mind.
But do you think it's going to be cost effective for the EdTech product owners, right, to bring in these teachers now and begin to train them to become instructional designers, or just go and being already made instructional designers on your product? So what do you think would be a better deal for a product owner when it comes to hiring? So would you rather just get a teacher and work with them to become instructional designers, or you could just get instructional designers who have a teaching background?
Now it depends on
your pocket size.
Yeah, and then it also depends on your solution.
Okay.
So for Lotego, sorry I'm mentioning Lotego.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so for Lotego, it's a good business decision to have, because our learners are teachers.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are creating CPD solutions. That's continuous professional development solutions for teachers, right? So who would be the best people to train teachers if not
If not
teachers?
teachers
That's why I said it
themselves.
depends.
It depends, okay.
Right? So, but if you are creating solutions for learners, school learners, then you can start thinking what aspect. Some people focus on just STEM. So if you are focusing on STEM solutions, then maybe you can work with an instructional designer and maybe a team of STEM teachers.
Okay.
So it all depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. My next question was going to be, so what's the handshake between instructional designers and teachers? But we've aced that already. You've
Done.
helped us see that beyond just wanting to work with teachers, you need instructional designers, and beyond just saying, okay, instructional designers are the its people, you need to also have teachers. So there's a handshake.
Yes.
And I was going to ask specifically when it comes to curriculum alignment, what role both play. But I think your questions have answered it already, because teachers are the ones who are in the classroom,
Yes.
who understand what learners should be learning at every given time, and they can provide this information to you, the instructional designer, who then translates it into boards. I'm using your words now. Hey God, I'm feeling so interesting. So you can put it into boards that the developers can now work with.
Are you sure you've not been an instructional designer?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bisayo. And on a parting note, I would ask, how can instructional designers now collaborate with educators and the EdTech solution developers, the EdTech solution product owners, to promote the use of technology in our educational system? So how can we get more EdTech solutions into schools, into the system, from your own point of view as an instructional designer?
Okay, so the first thing is to co-create, right? It's amazing that we are in a co-creation hub. So the first thing is that I would advise is co-create. Don't just do everything in your office. Go to the schools, get them involved from the beginning. Let them know this is what we are doing. This is the potential that it has. Get them involved. Talk to the school leaders. Talk to teachers, not just classroom teachers now. Because from my experience with instructional designing, I've realized that a lot of EdTech experts, they just think that teachers, when you say teachers, you think it's just classroom teaching or subject teachers. There are teacher leaders. There are teachers that are HODs. There are teachers that are in the IT department of schools. So by the time you start putting teachers in those categories and you start working with them from the beginning, from time to time, in fact, sometimes you can go there to just give a free talk, involve the school in your practices, not necessarily dishing out all your ideas, just to save your idea, but involve them so that when it's time for them to integrate the solution, they feel like they are part of it. It doesn't look like you are trying to, choke them with your solution. They already understand. They've already been engaged right from the beginning. So that's my number one and like my best advice to EdTech owners. Involve them. Go to schools. Don't wait until your solution is ready before you start having that conversation with the people that you want to sell the solution to. And don't just use them as research tools. Don't just go to them when you need data and then you are off. All of a sudden your solution is ready and then you are back again. So let them be part of everything, strategically. Thank you.
I hope you are listening to her. I hope you're listening to Bisara, because she has told us how important it is to have, instructional designers, and that when you want to design, if you want to ensure that we get more EdTech solutions into use, we need to co-create, we need to work with the people we are designing for and with, and ensure that they understand why we are doing what we're doing, hear from them what their challenges and pain points are, and translate this into the design process, so that when you now bring your ready-made solution, it's not alien to them anymore, and they don't feel like guinea pigs, right? Because they are part of the design process from inception to what you have as a final solution.
Exactly.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Bisayo.
you.
I really enjoyed you. And to you, our listeners, would love to hear from you. What do you think about the role instructional designers play in building sustainable partnerships for building effective EdTech solutions? How can we support more young people to take up instructional designing as a career path to support product owners who are building solutions for education. You can send us a WhatsApp message or an SMS on 0703 165 0809. You can also join the conversation on our WhatsApp and Telegram channels at EdTech Mondays Nigeria to join the conversation. It's been another amazing episode of the show this week. We've listened to Bisayo share her wealth of experience on the role instructional designers play in creating effective EdTech solutions. Make sure you keep it a date and join us next week as we have another amazing guest who'll be speaking about sustainable partnerships for effective EdTech product design. I remain your host, Chinyelu Akpa. Until next time, it's bye for now.
EdTech Monday is proudly brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.